Hi everybody, and welcome to today's tutorial about the Modified African Flower Motif. This one is slightly different than a regular African flower motif only because it's a little bit daintier and a little bit smaller. We changed some of the stitches so that we can create a tighter flower. All right, here I am going to be using a worsted weight yarn. It is 100% cotton. It's called Drops Paris Unicolor. It is also, I've discovered, yarn group C, which apparently is the Aran worsted weight yarn group. So you can use any, in America, considered a number 4. Overseas, I believe that it is Aran or possibly a number 10. I could be completely wrong on that, so I do apologize if that is incorrect. But I know that they have Aran yarn as well. But any of the thicker cottons or a number 4 worsted weight cotton, that will work perfectly for this. You can also use acrylic yarn. This is not necessarily a cotton project. I chose cotton because I made a tablecloth out of it, and I wanted it to be, I don't know, I just wanted it to be out of cotton. So that was just my choice, and it's something I work with a lot, actually. So anyway, this is a yarn also that suggests that you use a size H hook. Now, I am not using a size H hook to achieve these. I used actually a number, or a letter F 3.75 millimeter hook in order to achieve these. I do give you information, but I'm going to just show you how to do a gauge swatch if you've never done one before, if this is the first time you've ever heard of gauging for something so that you can match up with the person that's creating the project. So what I did is I chained to 16 and then I single crocheted into the second chain from the hook and each one across. So essentially I have 15 stitches on this little sample here. I don't have any fancy kind of gauging tool. I just use a ruler because once upon a time I had a gauging tool and I lost it. So I use whatever is closest and easiest. This one I use because I can see through, and it says it's shatter resistant, so that's fancy. But anyway, what I'm going to do is lay this at one end at the 0. And then I'm going to I'm going to put this on a row that's easy to read, like this particular row right here. I don't do the back side of the stitches just because for me personally they're harder to read. So I do with the front side of stitches because I did this back and forth. So pick the front side of your stitch, lay it at the edge, and I put it at the bottom of the row. Now obviously my sample does not fulfill a complete 4 inches. So what we want to find out, just because it's easiest to go in evens, I want to find out how many stitches I can fit inside 2 inches, or I'm sorry, stitches I can fit inside of 2 inches. So at the edge here, and then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is where my last stitch meets up with the 2-inch mark. So I know that within a 2-inch space, I'm getting 9 stitches. That means if I do 18 stitches, I should get 4 stitches. I should get 4 inches. So that's the way that you gauge as far as your width is concerned. Now your height, you're going to go this way, and I did a total of 5 rows. So normally they say you should do a bigger sample. I feel like, because I'm not a fan of gauging. So I mean, if you're there, that's fine. If you're a gauger and you already know what you're doing, that's great. But for those of us that are not fans of gauging, I do the smallest amount that I can possibly get away with, okay? To figure out where I'm at. So I can see that in a 4 row, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, I have 1 inch. So if I have 8 rows, I should have 2 inches. If I have 12 rows, I should have 3 inches. So I'm gauging this by single inches. I know that 4 rows up equals 1 inch, 9 stitches across equals 2 inches. The reason why doing a little gauge sample like this is important for certain projects is because if you and I can match up on this little square, then you should, when you are making your motif using the same hook and the same yarn, be matching up with the measurements of my motif. All right. So we do a little sample to save us a big headache. All right, so the only thing that I have a tendency to gauge for is garments, and that's just my personal preference. You can gauge for what you want. All right, let's talk about our yarn. So I'm choosing 4 colors because each of my motifs has 4 colors in it. I included the same color in every single motif. I've got lavender somewhere in each of my motifs because that ties all of my colors together. You can get pretty funky with the colors that you use if you will use one color the same in every single motif, and you can get away with quite a variety of color combinations. I've got a lot of different things. Now, all these guys have red petals only because those are the only ones that I had left at this moment. But like I said, you can put some pretty funky color combinations together based on just including the same color in each one. All right, so with that thought, we are going to start with the center being aqua. All right, and so to start this, we are going to be making a magic ring. So I make my magic ring by wrapping over my finger, going underneath, pulling up. We are going to be starting with a chain 3. This is going to count as a double crochet for you going forward. Put another double crochet into your magic ring. Now I want you to chain 2. We're going to do this a total of 5 more times because we want to have 6 little spokes in the center of our flower. So let's do 2 more double crochets. Chain 2. All right, keep going. I'm almost done here. Chain 2, and I'm going to put my last 2 double crochets in here and my last chain 2. You see, we have this great big hole here. I'm going to use that string that we created with our magic ring, and I'm going to pull it, and that's what makes it a magic ring, is because now we've got a nice tight center. And for this project, we don't want a big gaping hole in the center. Now with that chain 2, I'm going to go into the 3rd chain of the double crochet. I'm going to slip stitch to it like so. And we are cutting off. I will say this pattern is going to give you lots of ends to weave in. You're going to want to have a large eye needle. I have a tendency to do this as I'm going along. I'm just going to show you how I secure my ends so that you can secure your ends and you will not have your projects come apart. I frame my ends open just because it helps me to squeeze them tighter, because I fold it over the end of my large eye needle and I squeeze it through like so. Now I pull it in, but then I'm going to go back over. So when I go back over, I'm going to catch this guy here and pull back through so that if this ever gets pulled on or something like that, it can't come loose on this end. If you feel like it needs another pass, just catch that loop and go back through. Try to only do this maybe 2 times, only because it can get rather bulky on a project if you're weaving back and forth too many times. You'll get a feel for it if it's something new to you. All right, I'm just going to leave this one in place for right now because I don't feel like dealing with it. However, we are going to just move right along to our petals right now. We're going to start with this section right here, which is essentially going to be very much like this section right here. So what's your next color? Mine's going to be this pea green color because I want I have a thing for that blue and that green being next to each other. It just is very calming to me and makes me very happy. All right, so I always start to the right of wherever my tail is. It's just my personal habit. You don't have to do that. You can start in any open chain 2 space. As I lose my yarn, just pull it through. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing where we chain 3. We're going to double crochet into that same space. I want you to chain 2 again, and then I want you to put 2 more double crochets into that same chain 2 space. We have now made the bottoms of our petal right here. We're going to put a chain 1, and then we're going to do another base to our petal, chain 2, and another 2 double crochets. Now I do catch my yarn up in the back end. However, because of the nature of this, I'm not going to carry this all the way around because it's not going to be secure. I'm going to stop right here, and I will come back and I will weave that back in there. Like I said, I only do it over 1 because I don't like to see that all the way around. I know it's the back of the motif, but I'm a weirdo that way. And so we're going to continue going on. The whole thing with sewing in your ends is you can do it however you like. It's your happy zone. Chain 1, double. I just had a TikTok go through my head where somebody was saying that you get these crochet people who are teaching you how to crochet, and they're like, oh, do this, and then they do this stitch so fast nobody can see. So I'm apologizing if I ever am doing things so fast that you cannot see it. Leave me a comment, so that I can change the way that I do this so it's instructional for you and you don't feel like you're getting lost. Just remember, we are doing a chain 1 in between each of our clusters. Chain 2 and 2 doubles, and then a chain 1 to finish off this, goodness gracious, section. And then we're going to go back to that original chain 3, and at the 3rd chain, we are going to slip stitch to join. Do not cut this off because we're going to continue to use this color to finish the petal. I want you to slip stitch over to that open chain 2 space and chain 3 again. All right, now, because we're creating a petal in each one of these chain 2 spaces, we're going to be putting a total of 7 double crochets into each chain 2 space to create this fan. And I actually have the original starting chain here. So you can see where that original chain 3 is. This, we only need 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we only, in the first one, are going to put 6 double crochet because that first chain 3 counts. But we are going to, in the next one, do 7. All right, so let's just do this so we don't confuse you. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now here's where we're going to differentiate from the original African flower motif. Normally you just go right into the next chain 2. We are going to go into this chain 1 space and we're going to slip stitch. Right? That pulls our fan down, and we're going to go into the next chain 2 space and do 7 double crochet. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, now into that chain 1 space, we're going to slip stitch. All right, see how that pulls and makes our petal curve right away. And 7 into the next chain 2. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And into that chain 1 space, slip stitch. All right, and then we're just going to continue on this same way around the entire flower, putting 7 double crochets in each of our chain 2s, and then we're going to slip stitch into the chain 1 in between. And I lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Go ahead and continue that. Put a slip stitch here and then join to your chain 3 here, and you can cut off after this color. I'll be right back. Alrighty, so if you have completed and you're ready to move on, then we are going to move on to our third color. I'm going to use my lavender as this little accent line right here, which is also going to help us define our petals. All right, so we're going to go into the petal and we're going to find the first stitch, which is going to be your one all the way over to the right, not the slip stitch, which is right here, but this guy right here. Go ahead and enter your hook and pull up a loop. We're going to be working in single crochets right now. So in this first one, chain 1 and then single crochet into that same space. And then we're going to do 2 more. 1 and 2. Now we're kind of breaking this petal down into thirds. There's the first side, there's the top, and then there's the second side. Because when this is also something that's different from the regular African flower motif, because typically you do not put 3 stitches into the top of the petal. You just do a single crochet in each one. So we're doing 3, then we're doing 3 in the top, and then we're doing 3 down the side. So there's 1 going into each of the stitches going down the side. Now, what do we do with this slip stitch that's in the center? Because we don't want this big, bulky, ugly thing here. We are going to do what's called a long single crochet over that. It's not a very long single crochet. Typically, a long single crochet is a little longer. I'm not trying to be cheeky, but it's fairly short. It's just, you're just going to go around everything in the center and single crochet over the top of it. It just has an elongated base to it. Now, this is where my original chain 3 is. So make sure you're going into the top chain of that chain 3, because that is what we're considering your double crochet in this spot. So single, single, and single, and then 3 in the top. 1, 2, 3, and then 3 down the side. And then the long single crochet over our slip stitch. Three up the side. And this just continues the same all the way around. 1, 2, 3. As you can see, I have a tendency to pull the yarn that I'm working on into the back of my work forward, because otherwise it's too hard to hang on to back there. So I just kind of pull it to the front, and it all gets blended in. So we're at 3 at the top, and now we're doing 3 down the side, 2 and 3. And as you can see, my yarn is basically blended in. I can see where I've got a couple tufts hanging out here. I may go back and pick some of that out and weave it back the other direction so it doesn't come out during like the washing cycle or something like that. I don't want to have ends coming out. But if you're fine with it, leave it alone. All right, long single crochet. And 3 up the side. 2, 3, 3 in the top. And 3 down the other side. All right, continue that to the end. I'll meet you back up over here. Okay, last slip stitch. And yes, we are going to put that long single crochet in that spot. And then we're going to slip stitch to the first single crochet of the row and cut our yarn. Go ahead and pull that through. Now this is what your flower should look like. Might be, you know, pulling up a little bit on your edges. That's fine, not a big deal. We are going to now move on to our outside color. I'm going to use this rust tone to complete this, and that's what that's going to look like on there. So going to the right of my tail, which I usually do, we're going to find in the top of our petal these 3 single crochets right here. You're going to insert in the center of those 3 single crochet. Now I want you to chain 3 again, but this is not going to count as our double crochet. This counts as a half double plus a chain 1. All right. So in that same spot, I want you to half double crochet. This is like creating a small V stitch. Now we're going to half double crochet into 9. That should take us over to the next corner. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is where we joined. 6, 7, 8, and 9. So that's exactly what it did. 9 brought us up to the next corner. In this next corner, we're going to half double, chain 1, half double. All right, now do another 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Once again, we're right back where we need to be at the corner. Do another 3 in there, or not 3, but a half, chain 1, half. Continue that all the way around, and then go ahead and connect over here to the original chain 2, not the chain 3. So you're not going to go, I'm making a mess here. You're not going to go into this chain here because this counts as your chain 1. You're going to go into the second chain of that chain 3 to join. All right, go ahead and finish this up. I will meet you back over here when I've completed this round. All right, so the outside border has been completed on my motif. What I'm going to do right now is very quickly show you how to put them together. Now you can assemble them in any way that you want. I'm just going to show you the way that I'm putting them together for my tablecloth, because I wanted to make sure that my motif was more prominent than my attachment. So because I had already cut off all of my ends on my motifs, and I didn't, normally what I do is I leave real long ends and I'll just use it for sewing together. But because when I first started making these motifs, I didn't know what I wanted to make with them. I just cut them off and tucked in all my ends so that all I had were these motifs. So now here I sit. So what I decided to do is to whip stitch them together from behind. So get whatever length you need and get it strung on your needle. And then what I did is I put my right sides together. So when I'm looking at this, I'm going to be working from corner to corner to attach the edges. So what sticks out to me when I put this up is that my half double crochet that I started with over here on this edge ends with that chain one. Because you got to remember that half double crochet throws its actual V to the right of the stitch as opposed to the left when you're working with, say, like a single crochet or something like that. So you have to look at half double crochet just slightly different. Otherwise, you can get cockeyed or skewed. So if you remember that your stitch is to the right of your half double crochet, so the stitch is here, but the chain one actually kind of finishes out the row over here. So I'm going to be going half double crochet to chain one on this side. However, on this side is the mirror, not the mirror, but the flip opposite. So I'm going to be starting in the chain one on this side, finishing with the half double crochet on this other side. This is how I do it. Hopefully it helps you. Otherwise, you are more than welcome to come up with whatever strategy works for you to get it from corner to corner where it's coming out the same each time. So I'm just going through the back loops only of these stitches that I'm matching up. Because when I flip it over, I wanted it to show that, well, here, let's just go ahead and whip stitch through the back loop only on here. And then I'll show you what that front side looks like. It still is going to show the lavender. And the reason why I chose the lavender to put all my pieces together is because the lavender is in every single one of my pieces. So it's still, even though it technically sticks out, I don't find it offensive or that my eye isn't drawn to that stitch because I see the color in the rest of the project. So it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb to me. All right, we are where we want to be. Okay, I am going into that chain one here and the last half double crochet over here. Now this is what it looks like on the front side. You can see the stitches, absolutely. And that's why if you're going to whip stitch, usually you want to try and do something that's going to complement the colors that you're working on. Usually if you just leave a long end of one, because this color is here, it will typically blend in and you don't see the stitching. But because I chose a contrasting color, but one that is in both of, it's not offensive to me. So that's what I'm doing on my tablecloth. And that's how I'm putting my pieces together, because I wanted to still maintain the integrity of each of the motifs. Because if I were to whip stitch through both, it would blend all of my edges together and each one of the motifs would not stand out on their own. They would just become a part of the whole. All right, so that's it for the Modified African Flower Motif, and that's how I put my pieces together. And I hope that this video has helped you. If you have any questions, make sure that you drop it in the comments.